Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing. To both Secretary Nichols and Secretary Robinson, Chinese trade with Latin America and the Caribbean increased almost $18 billion in 2002 to almost $316 billion in 2009. That's a big jump. At least 19 Latin American and Caribbean countries participate in the Belt and Road Initiative, and China's investments in Latin America from 2005 to mid-2021 amounted to $133 billion. Despite this, your testimonies outlining this administration's priorities for the Western Hemisphere do not mention China even one time. How are we to take this administration's stance on China seriously if you do not even list it as a priority? And have you all just abandoned the Monroe Doctrine, and are you welcoming Communist China to invest in our own backyard?
Thank you very much, Congressman. My opening statement talked about malign influences from outside of our hemisphere. The challenges that we face in our region with regard to the presence of the PRC are significant. We need to ensure that the countries in our hemisphere are competing on a level playing field, that investments are transparent, that they're not a Trojan horse for surveillance systems or other problems. We trade with China ourselves, but we need to make sure that all of us have our eyes open when we do so. We work very hard to make sure that we share what we know with the countries in our hemisphere, and we need to do everything we can to offer up free market-based positive solutions to countries who are looking for ways to address their infrastructure needs, their healthcare sector needs, and exploit their natural resources that they need to grow.
I appreciate that, and Ambassador, thank you for that. But we want to see real concrete action in that regard. And let me give you an example, Secretary. In December of last year, we saw another Western Hemisphere nation, Nicaragua, break diplomatic ties with Taiwan, seizing Taiwan's embassy and diplomatic offices and turning them over to the PRC. What concrete, and I'm asking for specifics here, actions is the State Department taking to protect the current countries in the Western Hemisphere that still maintain diplomatic ties to Taiwan?
As I said earlier, we have spoken with each of the countries that maintain relations with Taiwan now, 8 nations in the Western Hemisphere, about the value of those nations, those relationships, and we support Taiwan as an important partner in our region that supports democratic and free market values. During our conversations, for example, with the new administration in Honduras, both before taking office and just last week, we talked about the importance of the relationship that Honduras has with Taiwan, and newly inaugurated President Castro has restated her government's commitment to remain with Taiwan.
Well, that's good. With respect to Nicaragua, have you expressed displeasure with what they did in abandoning Taiwan in favor of the PRC?
We put out a statement which noted that the anti-democratic behavior of Nicaragua and authoritarian conduct matched their decision to break relations with Taiwan. And Taiwan's a democratic actor and an important partner for the region. Nicaragua is an authoritarian state that abuses the human rights of its people in an increasing basis every day. I'm not surprised that they don't want to have relations with Taiwan.
One other thing just to flag, not asking for a response, but the Panama Canal and the country of Panama, I think, is particularly vulnerable to malign Chinese influence, and I would ask the State Department to focus on that as well. Final question to Secretary Robinson. According to the CDC, synthetic opioids like fentanyl are the primary driver of overdose deaths in the United States. 11,201 pounds of fentanyl was seized at the southern border in fiscal year 2021. That's enough to kill every man, woman, and child in America 8 times over. Yes or no, would a physical border barrier between the United States and Mexico.